Now I'll talk about some critique on social media and its discourse, and how this may be exploitative in the hands of some multinational corporations. How the discourse generated on social media may cause some kind of exploitation to its users. According to a definition proposed by Oxford Dictionary, we can say that Web 2 is probably the second stage of the development of Internet, in which the static form of general Internet content has been changed into some kind of fluid and dynamic web pages. And these dynamic web pages have resulted into the creation of social media, websites, and platforms. And some people claim that based on these dynamic web pages, the dynamics of communicative power on media, especially internet media, has been changed for the benefit of ordinary people, ordinary users of these websites. But we'll see how far this is true. This claim is not without doubt or criticism. Some people really speak against it. Macro critique of Web 2 claims that social media, it's really doubtful that social media would generate some kind of highly democratic and egalitarian discourse among the people, which would not be governed by any economic or commercial interest or political interest of some powerful group. They seriously doubt such postulation or proposition. They say that this is another form of exploitation, and even in social media discourse, people may be discriminated in a certain way, and we'll see how would they further their claim. For example, from a Marxist point of view, this is based on exploitation of users' unpaid labor. They would say that certain users would create content, they keep on writing on certain websites, some really produce some very effective material, and others visit it, and in this situation, the makers of that website or that social media site or platform would benefit from it. As more users, as more visitors they get, more profit they get from the advertisers who pay them for advertising on their pages. So therefore, they benefit from the labor performed by some users, but the profit goes to somebody else. In addition to that, users' engagement on social networking websites or platforms brings about the profit for the platform owner, both because of the value of content produced by somebody else. Sometimes the owner themselves plays certain media discourse, but most of the time on the social media discourses, the content is being regularly and very fastly being produced by the users of these websites, whereas the most of the time, then most of the profit is received by the owner of that website. You see, and you don't have to think much about it in order to get an evidence for it. Just imagine, just read on your Google, just type in your Google about the accumulation of wealth to these corporations. These social media websites have now turned into some kind of corporation. Then you just imagine how much wealth they accumulate every month, every year, and you'll see most of the owners of these social media websites or platforms, they are now billionaires. Are there some of them are I would resist naming any one of them here, but you can imagine that some of them now are among the top richest people in the world. So this is one example of how much wealth is being accumulated through this social media. And you imagine most of the material on these websites is not produced by the owners, rather by the users. So this is, according to a Marxist point of view, this may be seen as some kind of exploitation, but some people probably would support this also on other grounds. Let's see. This is also a fact that there is no absolute control over Web 2. This interactive social media discourse, there is no clear, identifiable control in which people can get a better chance to express their views, their democratic, their egalitarian thoughts. And one of the examples for this point of view is that many websites on social media are owned by the people who are anti-capitalist. They do not support the narrative of multinational companies or capitalist organizations. Rather, they go against them, they speak against them, and they have a platform to raise their voices, which was not possible in traditional forms of media, like say electronic or print media. There was a huge censor, and there were multi-nature censors on those platforms. But social media is, even if you disagree with this, but on a fair note, it appears that social media is relatively liberal in this matter, and people can generate their own web pages. They share their thoughts unless they are certain limits of law, and the material being generated is not derogatory in a certain way. So they are usually allowed to say their thoughts, to express and share their thoughts. And such websites have millions of followers. So in that sense, this can be seen as more liberated form of media, and that's what can be counted as the benefit of this form of media. But overall, we can see that people are being exploited. Prosumers who create content, they spend hours on various social media websites without being paid a penny for this. But we can see, as I said, since they feel liberated, they express their views freely. They won't mind it sometimes. They won't mind it, and they even don't know that they are being exploited. So, but as I said, there are two sides of the coin. You can go for any side wherever you find yourself convinced about. So there is some kind of exploitation. Some people claim so, and there is some kind of liberation at the same time also. So this is a very tricky affair. In order to get deep into this, we need to understand the whole phenomena with some kind of seriousness, and that's what probably would create space for an exhaustive critical discourse analysis of social media discourse and its dynamics.